Okay, hopefully this is recording, and welcome to everybody. This is, I hope I'm going to keep this short. I'm doing this as a live presentation, looking at one of Anthony Riley's claims. So Anthony's latest video, Flat Earth New Moon Challenge, and I'll be doing a short series as I have a little bit of time, a coffee break or a lunch time, just to address the content of this video in particular, because I think it's interesting, but nonsense. So in this video, Anthony restates his opinion that at the solar eclipse of August 21st, 2017, the moon did not cause the eclipse, or at least it didn't. There's no evidence it's a solid object passing between the Earth and the sun, blocking out the sun's light. And the evidence that he cites in support of this is the fact that if you take a partial eclipse photograph and put it through some photo manipulation software, you get these rings of light appearing around the sun, which, sorry, I progress that forwards just a little bit. Okay, I'll pause it there. You get these rings that appear around the sun, but that cross over where the moon is supposed to be. And Anthony's favorite phrase is that these are artifacts that belong to the sun. And if the moon was there, then these artifacts should not be present. If the moon was a solid object that was there, then these artifacts, these lines, should not be there. Now, he presents a number of pictures in this video that show the same sort of thing. And many have been presented before using different kinds of photo manipulation software, but the point is still the same. It's these lines here where he says the moon should be, and those lines can only be there if the moon is not a solid object between the observer and the light source, in this case the sun. Now, a little while ago, I posted a video which sought to address this particular question, at least in part of it. And I'm going to re-show some of that evidence now. So this is an eclipse photograph, which has been through photo manipulation software. This is not from one of Anthony's videos. It's from another Flat Earthers video, but it's the same evidence, and Anthony and this guy were working together on this stuff. So you see these rings appearing around and are crossing where the moon should be, and the further out ones just continue all the way around. Now, I did an experiment where I placed a flashlight, an LED flashlight, in a black bag, a black holdall. And between the camera and the flashlight, I placed a black plastic cylindrical, such an old 35mm film canister, for those of you who are familiar with those things. And just standing on the base of the bag. This is an LED flashlight. You can see the lens flare here, which shows the actual points of the LEDs that are in the flashlight, and this area is obviously blocked out by the plastic container. So this picture shows a partial eclipse of the flashlight caused by the solid object between the camera and the flashlight. Now, if you take this image and you crop out a section from the light source and the eclipse, and you put it into some photo manipulation software and play around with the levels, you can start to create these rings, these lines that cross over where the solid object is. The further out ones just form largely a circle, slightly altered, but the lines, the blue here and the sort of purple color and the brown color pass across where the object actually should be, between the light source and the camera. And if you continue to play around with it, you can create more and more lines and sharpen up the definition between those lines. And again, putting it through more manipulation, creating new lines where previously there were none, sharp edges to the lines, and clearly these lines are passing across where we know that there is a solid object. So this clearly demonstrates that Antony's so-called evidence that the moon cannot be there is completely false. Those lines are created by the photo manipulation software. They do not actually exist in the original image. What does exist in the original image is a gradient of light glare, which is coming from the light source itself and crossing over the object. If we go back to my original picture here, you can see that light that starts from this part of the flashlight can travel towards the camera, well, probably more like closer, can travel towards the camera and enter the lens, even though it is passing across in front of the object. There's a lot of light emanating out from here, which the camera will capture. The photo software simply tries to take that gradient and sharpen it up in some way, grouping pixels together, and you end up with lines or steps in it rather than a smooth sloping gradient. And that's why you get these lines. Some people have referred to them as field lines. Antony has, I believe. They're nothing to do with a field. It's simply a gradient of light that has been played around with by the photo manipulation software and caused to produce these lines. Now, Antony uses the word artifact. He says these are artifacts that belong to the sun. And in a sense, he's correct. Let's look at what artifact means. An artifact, in a scientific sense, okay, in a social sense, you can say that it's an object made by a human being, one of cultural or historical interest. So we would talk about a bracelet from the Bronze Age being a Bronze Age artifact. But this is a scientific definition. Definition 2. Something observed in a scientific investigation or experiment that is not naturally present, but occurs as a result of the preparative or investigative procedure. And that's exactly what has happened here, Antony. The investigative procedure has created the artifact. What existed here in the original is a gradient of light. It does not demonstrate at all that the moon is not a solid object between the sun and the observer. My photographs clearly show that a solid object can be between a light source and the observer, And by putting it through photo manipulation software, you can create exactly the same effect as was seen at the eclipse. So that deals with Antony's evidence. The evidence that he claims shows the moon cannot be between the Earth and the sun, or the observer and the sun in these images. Exactly the same effect can be produced when we know there is a solid object between the light source and the observer. So that's part one. I'll leave it there. Simple demonstration that the evidence Antony has is not evidence of what he claims. It does not show that the moon is not a solid object. It doesn't even come close. So we'll stop this here, and when I get time a bit later on, I shall post part two, which will hopefully deal with some other issues that Antony presents. So I'll stop the broadcast now and go and get on with some work. And a little later, maybe in my lunch break, I might have a chance to present some other stuff.